we're moving into a season of suddenness. We're believing for sudden revelations, sudden supernatural manifestations, sudden restoration, sudden impact, sudden breakthroughs. What is your suddenly going to be? What are you believing for? It's time for you to seize your suddenly. Now listen, I've been gone for a couple weeks and I'm here wound up tighter than an 8-day clock. I've come with a word from heaven today, and I believe that God is going to break something free in your life today. Matter of fact, it's already happening. We're already getting testimonies. This week we had testimonies of suddenly 2 people getting jobs that haven't had jobs for weeks or months. We've had suddenly somebody get a miraculous entrance into a new home and they moved suddenly. Come on. We're getting suddenly moments are popping up everywhere. Suddenly money is coming from nowhere. Suddenly we're getting testimonies of people being healed. I believe suddenly people on your block are going to get saved. I believe suddenly prodigals are going to come home. I believe suddenly some things are going to shift in your life. Somebody say suddenly. We're believing it's going to be a regular occurrence. All year, we're going to see sudden salvations, sudden restoration, everywhere we go. The issue is not whether suddenlies are coming. Because God said they're coming, and if God said they're coming, they're coming. But it's, am I going to be ready when they come? Mark 13:36 said, in case he, Jesus, should come suddenly, everybody say suddenly, and find you asleep. Now that text has eschatological implications. It's an end times New Testament scripture. I get that it has to do with the second coming of Jesus. But if you just think prophetically with me for a moment, what if he comes, which he's going to, not in his full second coming, but he comes again and again and again throughout this year, suddenly into our lives, and we're asleep. See, I don't want to sleep through my suddenly. Turn to your neighbor and say, you better not be asleep. Come on, say, you better not be sleeping through your suddenly. Don't be sleeping. Tell them, wake up. Come on, nudge them. Say, wake up. See, I don't want to sleep through my suddenly. I want to seize my suddenly. And that's what the next few months is about. These next few weeks, we're going to be talking about how we seize our suddenly. Ephesians 5:14, he says, therefore he says, awake you who sleep. Arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light. In other words, he's saying, an alarm's going off. Wake up! And this morning, your pastor has come to tell you, wake up! Wake up. He says in verse 15, see that you walk soberly or circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. What does that mean, to redeem time? Well, the word redeem in the Greek is exagorezo. It means to buy up for your own use or purpose. It's to purchase for a purpose. So you're purchasing something to use it. Sometimes you buy stuff, you don't use it. He's saying, I want you to buy time. I want you to buy the moment. How do you buy time? How do you buy moments? Do you buy them with dollars? You buy them with Japanese yen or British pounds? No, you buy time. Thayer says it this way in his dictionary of New Testament words. He says, you buy time not with currency, but with zeal and well-doing. Or I would say it this way, you buy moments with passionate obedience. When you passionately obey the word of God, stay with me, you're buying time. If you're not doing that, you're wasting time. You're spending time. You're killing time. There's two different words in Greek for time. One is chronos. It's general time. It's as time goes by. It's the clock ticking by. Everybody understands chronos or chronological time. But there's another Greek word for time called kairos, K-A-I-R-O-S, and it's strategic time. It's military time. It's a season of opportunity. It's a window of time, but it's a closing window. We don't have a word in English for that, so when he says redeem the time, we think he means by, 10:07. By 11:05. No, he's not saying by chronological time. He's saying by strategic moments. That God is going to send you strategic windows of opportunity. He's going to send you seasons. He's going to send you moments. And he's saying by these. And he says, why? Because the days are evil. Again, there's two Greek words for evil. You didn't know you were coming to Greek class at church today. But there's two Greek words for evil. Kakos and paneros. Kakos is evil out there. There's evil in the world. There's evil. And when you read through this text, you say, redeem the time because the days are evil. What does that mean? I'm glad you asked. It means buy the strategic moment, not because there's evil out there. That's kakos. This word is paneros. It's where we get our English word pernicious. It means an evil with an assignment against the good. So God, watch this, sends a strategic moment, and when the devil sees that happening, he sends an evil day. No, you can catch that. God sends a moment, the devil sends a day. But God's moment is greater than the devil's day. So he's saying, I want you to passionately, with all the zeal you have, buy up the moment with your passionate obedience to what God tells you. And if you do, understand there are evil assignments against your moments. But if you will buy the moment you buy is greater than the day you live in. So the devil brings a day of racism, but one moment of loving your brother, no matter what color his skin, is greater than the day of racism. Is there anybody in this house? The moment. Listen, the devil brings a day of prosperity, but one moment of God breaking through into your life breaks off all that poverty. My God, I'll preach if somebody will help me today. So he's saying you got to buy it. Say, what are you saying, Duane? I'm glad you asked. I'm saying this, the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity. Let me say that again. The moment of a lifetime has to be seized in the lifetime of the moment. Or you could say it this way, suddenly moments must be seized. Your suddenly must be seized. I want us to look quickly at two stories in the Old Testament. One in 1 Kings, one in 2 Kings. That illustrate, I think quite well, what it means to seize a suddenly moment. Are you with me? All right, two stories. Everybody say two stories. First of all, 1 Kings 17, 1 through 16. We're not going to read it all. You can look it up this week. You can read it on your own. 1 Kings 17, 1 through 16. Let me give you the backdrop, and then we're going to pick up in the middle of the story. Ahab is this terribly wicked king, and he marries Jezebel, literally. You know, people say, oh, he married that guy, he married a Jezebel. He married a Jezebel. No, he didn't marry a Jezebel, he married Jezebel. The Jezebel. The Jezebel that everybody gets called Jezebel because of her. Come on, are you here? He marries Jezebel, who worshiped Baal and Asherah, whom the people believe was the God who provided rain and harvest. This has nothing to do with my message, but can I just tell you, single folks, it's important who you marry. You would be better off being being single than being married to Jezebel. Come on, are you here? Anyway, that's not my message. It's just good. So Elijah enters as the first in a long line of prophets who God's going to send to deal with wicked kings. Now, Israel, the northern kingdom, not Judah, because Israel was divided into two, Judah and the northern kingdom, Israel, they had no faithful kings throughout its history, including Ahab. And there were a few priests from Levi that left, but most had gone to Judah. And there's one appointed by the kings, the ones who were appointed by the king, they're corrupt. So there's no priest, there's no godly king to speak the word of the Lord. So for 300 years, God raises up prophets to speak. And so this is the first word of the Lord from 300 years of prophets. And so he comes on the scene in verse 1, and he says, there's going to be no rain for the next few years. I'm going to call for it. That's bold. He stands up and says, it ain't going to rain. And it ain't going to rain till I tell it to rain. Can you imagine if God sent you to the White House and said, hey, it ain't going to rain till I say it rains? They wouldn't even let you in the door. Come on, are you here? And he stands up and says, this is going to happen. And the Lord says in verse 2 and 3, you better get out of town because Ahab's married to Jezebel. And Jezebel's the devil. So Ahab is a military genius, but his military prowess can't get him out of a drought. Come on, are you here? And so he says, your word's not going to be so popular, so you better get out of Dodge. So in verse 4 through 6, he goes to a brook, and he lays under a tree, and ravens bring him food. They bring him bread and meat every day. Now, other than the fact that ravens are nasty birds, and he's being chased by a lunatic woman, this isn't a bad gig. Come on, the glass is either half full or half empty. How you want to look at it? Come on, if you're going to be, if you're going to be chased by a crazy one, at least birds can bring you food. So he's just chilling like Dylan by the side of the brook. And here, these ravens are bringing him food and bread. It's not a bad gig. It doesn't get much easier than that. But then in verse 7, something happens. It says, eventually, the brook dried up. Have you ever been in a situation where the word that God gave you brings the dilemma that you're in? No, you didn't catch that. I said the word God gave you brings the dilemma you're facing. God told him to prophesy that there would be no rain. He sends him to a brook and ravens feed him there, but then the brook dries up. Why did the brook dry up? There ain't no rain. Why is there no rain? Because you prophesied it, knucklehead. And he said, get up and go to Zarephath and sit on and live there because I've instructed, the King James says, commanded a woman who lives there, a widow, to feed you. So the brook dries up. That stinks. And it dried up because of the word of the Lord. That prophecy brought a predicament. But so what do you do when the brook dries up because of the word you got? You got to get another word. Come on. He could have laid there, Zechariah, and cried because the brook dried up, or he could have heard what God said. Most people are complaining about their predicament, not listening to God for the next instruction. And he says, go to Zarephath and sit on. And there's a woman. Now, wait a minute. We just got an upgrade. Nasty birds been bringing me meat and bread, but now getting up and going. Come on, he was a prophet, but he wasn't dead. I'm gonna go find this woman. Maybe there's some more instruction. Maybe I'm going to get a wife out of this deal. So he goes there, and he gets to Zarephath. Someone, I just read the Bible. Come on, are you here? See, God's given him a new strategy from ravens to a woman. I love it. Verse 10. So he got up and went to Zarephath. What is that? He bought the moment. Let me try that again. I said he bought the moment. Somebody say he bought the moment. He redeemed the time. So he got up and went to Zarephath. As he came to the entrance of the village, he met a woman, a widow, gathering firewood. And he asked her, please, would you give me a drink of water in a jug? I need a drink. And she went to get it. He called out and said, hey, while you're at it, get me something to eat. Now, I don't know what kind of women were in Zarephath. But Elijah's pushing his luck. Now think about this. The Bible says, I have commanded a woman to feed you. But he gets there and says, get me something to drink. And while you're at it, make me something to eat. And she didn't get the memo. God said, I commanded a woman to feed you. She didn't get the email from God. God texted her. She had it on Do Not Disturb or something because she doesn't know what's going on. You say, how do I know? Well, look at her reply. She said, I swear, as surely as your God lives, I don't have so much as a biscuit. You asked me for water. I'll go get you water because there's a little bit of that left. Come on, are you here? Which that's a pretty big ask in a drought. But she didn't balk at that one. But she said, when you ask me for food, you've gone too far. She said, I ain't even got no biscuits. No, much less gravy. I got a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a bottle. You found me scratching together enough firewood to make a last meal for me and my son. After we eat it, we're going to die. She says, okay, buddy, you've gone too far. Here's my strategic plan for today. I'm going to pick up enough sticks to make a fire to make one little biscuit. Because I ain't got no biscuits. I'm going to make one little piece of bread. And then me and my son going to eat that and die. That's my plan for today. And you want me to give you something to eat? I want to throw punch you. Come on, are you here? And look what he says. He says to her, don't worry about it. Don't worry about a thing. Go ahead and do what you said you were going to do with one little adjustment. Make that small biscuit for me and bring it back to here. I'll eat that. It's enough. Then go ahead and make a meal from what's left for you and your son. This is the word of the God of Israel. A jar of flour will not run out, he says. Here's her suddenly. And the bottle of oil will not become empty before God sends rain on the land and ends this drought. He says, lady, don't be afraid. Go ahead and use your strategic plan, but instead of eating what you have and die, sow it as a seed. Give it away. Listen, if what is in your hand is not enough to meet your need, it's probably not your harvest. It must be your seed. See, what's she got to lose? Remember when Jesus came to the rich young ruler? Said, give it all away? He went away sad. Come on, somebody, talk to me. Why? Because he could live on his stuff. But this woman couldn't live on it anyway. Sometimes God is looking for a ragtag bunch of poor widows that are desperate enough to say, God, I ain't got much, but whatever I got, I'll give it to you, because if I eat what I got, I'm going to die. But if I give it to you like that little boy's lunch, I can feed the world. Is there anybody in here who has enough faith to obey God. See, her miracle moment, her suddenly moment was wrapped up in radical obedience and outrageous generosity. So she went right off and did it. It says in verse 15, she did exactly what Elijah asked. And it turned out that as he said, daily food for her and her family, the jar of meal didn't run out and the bottle of oil didn't become empty. God's promise fulfilled to the letter exactly as Elijah had delivered it. What if she had not obeyed? What if she had not risked it all? What if she got offended? What if she listened to the news? What if she got online and Googled Elijah the prophet? Is he for real? And Google came up and said no. No. Come on now. Does anybody else read your Bible and just kind of translate it to today? Am I the only one that does that? So I'm imagining prophet comes to town, finds widow woman, locked in house with son about to die, gathering sticks in the snow. She's going to make a little bit of food and die. And prophet says, give your last meal to me. CNN, NBC, all of them, all of them, going to say, that charlatan, that Joel Osteen preacher, oh, no. That prosperity preaching, Joel Osteen loving, God hating. I mean, they get nasty. Come on, are you here? Who does he think he is? God wouldn't take that woman's last meal. God, if he was really a prophet, he'd be giving her a meal. Well, he did. See, they don't see the rest of the story. And once she was sustained, all the news media would leave. They wouldn't report the miracle. They just going to report the predicament. Because the news has no ability to solve a problem. All they know how to do is find problems. Listen, baby, any knucklehead can see a problem. God is looking for a people who can solve some. What if she had not seized her suddenly? What if she had got offended? One more story quickly. Everybody doing okay? You doing all right? You got a few more minutes in you? All right, look, I got a lot to give you. 2 Kings chapter 4. Second prophet. Elijah's spiritual son, prophetically, Elisha. 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7. Elisha is Elijah's successor. And he has an encounter with a widow. Her husband's dead, and the creditors are coming to get her boys. She's lost her husband. That's relational loss. She's lost her only source of income. She's about to lose her boys, more relational loss. And they're her only hope for financial future. You got to understand, in her day, the only way to get out of this situation would have been if her sons could help her. And then we pick up in verse 1, it says, one day the wife of a man from the school of prophets, guild of prophets, the message says, was school of prophets, called out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. So this guy was a church boy. And he died in church. He died in the school of the prophets. And she says, your servant, my husband, is dead. Can you hear just a little bit of manipulation in that? She's a little salty. Your servant, my husband is dead. Then she goes on. She says, you well know what a good man he was, devoted to God. Again, she's setting this up. I got a request. A little bit more manipulation maybe. And now the man who he was in debt to is on his way to collect by taking my 2 children to be slaves. How many of you know that's a bad day? Then in verse 2, Elijah said, I wonder how I can be of help. Tell me, what do you have in your house? And look at her reply. Nothing. Everybody say nothing. How many times does God come to us and we're begging for help and he said, what's in your house? And I ain't got nothing. Come on, I ain't got nothing. Yeah, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing. What's in your house? I ain't got nothing. Except. Somebody say except. She said, I got this one. I got this little bit of oil. Oil represents the Holy Spirit. If you got a little bit of oil, you got oh my Lord. If you got just a little bit of oil if you got a little bit of Holy Ghost on the inside of you, if you got a little bit of the power of God, you got enough. I'm fitting to preach. See, what she saw as nothing, God saw as something. What she saw as nothing, God saw as the answer. How many times do we see nothing and God sees something? We see our prayers as nothing. God sees them as something. We see our serving as nothing, but God sees it as something. We see that act of kindness to a neighbor as nothing, but God sees it as everything in their life. We see our offering as nothing, but God sees it as something. I thank God for just a minute that you've always got something. God never sees your nothing. He sees your something. I'm glad she added, I got a little bit of oil. Because if she had said nothing, the prophet would have walked away. If she said nothing, period, and the prophet would have said, okay, you got nothing. Because he said, how can I help you? The only way I can help you is if you'll tell me what's in your house. When Moses was going to go be a deliverer, God asked him, Moses, he didn't say, what's around you? He said, what's in your hand? What was in his hand? And he said, well, I just got this stick, God. It's just this stick that I used to take care of a few sheep in the desert. It's not really much. And God said, I'll take that. Throw that down and I'll do a miracle with it. Throw that down and I'll turn it into a snake and you'll pick it back up and Pharaoh will be freaked out and you'll get my people to be let go. Use what's in your hand. Listen, I've come to somebody today to say God just wants to know what's in your house. What's in your hand? He's not looking for what you don't have. He's looking for what you do have. But when you let go of what you do have, God gives you what you. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Verse 3. He said, okay, here's what you do. Go up and down the street and borrow jugs and bowls from all your neighbors. Don't just get a few, get all you can get. Now, this is not good get-out-of-debt principles. Your husband died, left you with, Elisha didn't sit down and say, okay, let's work this out. Your husband died. Let's list all your debts. We'll list them here, and then we're going to pay off this one. And then we're going to snowball. Once you get the lowest one paid off, we'll snowball. And then, in 72 months, we should be able to get your first son out of jail. Come on, this woman didn't have time for all that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Come on, say, ain't nobody got time for that. You say, are you making fun of financial peace and Dave Ramsey? No, God bless Dave Ramsey, but there's sometimes you got to break the rules. Maybe if she had lived by financial peace, she wouldn't have been in that dilemma. And afterwards, she ought to apply financial peace to the next level of her life so then she won't get back in that dilemma again. But at this moment, financial peace ain't going to help her. She ain't got no finances. She ain't got no peace. She broke, busted, and disgusted. Come on, you hear? So the creditors are coming to get your children. And the prophet, you're asking the prophet to help. And he says, go to all your neighbors and borrow more stuff. Elijah, you didn't hear me. My kids are going to jail. I ain't got no credit. My credit score is negative 200. Ain't nobody gonna loan me no money. The First Bank of Israel ain't happening. I went to the School of the Prophets Credit Union. They said no. My neighbors know my children going to jail. And you want me to go borrow stuff? You're crazy. Listen, she had to do the unreasonable to get the unpredictable. In verse 4, it says, then come home, lock the door behind you, you and your sons. Pour that little bit of oil you got into a container. And when each is full, set it aside. He said she had to shut the door. She had to give up the sensational to get the supernatural. My God, I'm dropping some bombs here. I hope you're catching them. Now, verse 5, so she did what he said. Somebody say suddenly. See, what did she do when she did what he said? She bought the moment. She paid for it. She didn't have no money. She paid for it with obedience. She locked the door behind her and her sons, and they brought the containers to her, and she filled them. Verse 6, when all the jugs and bowls were full, she said to one of her sons, give me another jug. This is really working well. She said, give me one more. He says, there's no more. That's it. There are no more jugs. The oil stopped. The miracle went as far as her and her boys had faith. If there had been another 10 jugs, it'd have kept going. See, the prophet said it this way in King James. He said, go borrow vessels, not a few. God can only fill the container you give him. So she went, verse 7, and told the story to the man of God. And he said, go sell the oil and make good on your debts. Live, both you and your sons, on what's left. The miracle wasn't for the sake of being a cool miracle. She gets a sustainable plan for the future. Sell the oil, pay your debt. You and your boys live on the rest. The miracle wasn't in the oil. It was in the strategy. But the strategy only worked to the level of her faith and her obedience. What if she had told him, listen, the prophet said go borrow something. Go get a little bowl, bring it back. Let's see what happens. She got a little bowl. Come on. What if she told the boy, what if she said, son, you boys, go do what the prophet said. And they started walking going, who is this Elisha dude? We're going to jail. And now we got to suffer the humiliation of going and borrowing more stuff that we can't pay back what we owe anyway. What if they just came, they said, we're just going to lie. And they came back and said, oh, everybody said no. Come on. Mom would have believed them. Are you here? No miracle. But Mom and her 2 boys all said, let's get as many as we can get. Let's gather them all. If everybody laughs at us, so what? If nothing happens, well, we're going to jail anyway. Sometimes, family, we're not desperate enough. We've got a plan B. There have been 2 or 3 times that I emptied, Chris and I have emptied bank accounts. There have been times that Last year, we gave 69.5% of our income away. You didn't hear what I just said. 69.5%. We didn't, not 30.5. We kept 30.5. We gave away 69.5. That math don't work. My CPA thinks I'm crazy. He said, why do you, it don't work. Why do we do it? Because I believe this stuff. I believe it with everything that's within me. See, we create a structure, God creates a miracle. We borrow vessels, God does the filling. We do what we can do, and God does what we can't do. Is there anybody in the bridge that's ready to seize your suddenly? Is there anybody that's willing to create a vessel and believe God to fill it? This entire year is a year of suddenlies, but for the next 8 weeks, now stay with me for a few minutes. The next 8 weeks, we're gonna really go for it. 8 weeks leads us to our anniversary, April 8th, the Sunday after Easter. On April 8th, we're going to do something really special, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. But for the next 8 weeks, I'm asking everybody on campus and online, everybody that calls the bridge their home, I'm asking you, while we're stirring your faith to see suddenlies, we want you to do some things. First of all, in just a few minutes, I'm going to tell the ushers they're going to bring some stuff up here. I'm going to ask everybody to make a move to the front at the end. I'm going to ask everybody not to walk out that door until you've come to the front and done at least one thing. The first thing is get this card. It says, what's your suddenly? It has, these are prayer cards, and you can see some of our team have already been putting them up here, and they're writing suddenlies they're believing for, and we're going to tack them. Now we've got one in the foyer in the back. If you're online, just say, my suddenly is, and email it to us. We're going to make an email, suddenly@findthebridge.com. If we don't have it already, Sarah will have it done before we know it, because she just heard me say that. So we're, or Alex, or whoever does that, somebody's going to do it. By faith, it will happen. Probably before I'm finished preaching. He's probably on it right now. Suddenly@findthebridge.com. So you can email them. You can put them in that foyer if you're here physically. You can tack it on the wall. Then every week, we're going to pray over them at staff prayer on Tuesdays. We're going to pray over them at Collide tonight. And we're going to bring them when we're done and tack them up here. And we're going to pray over these every week for 8 weeks. And in your mind, you're going to know when they start coming off there. And as a matter of fact, you can start taking them off when they come and then emailing us, suddenly it happened. Come on, are you here? Then on the other side, it tells what we're believing for in our sowing, because we're going to sow a suddenly seed on April 8th. And so I'll come back to that in just a moment. Next thing is going to be up here. We're going to have a prayer guide for almost 60 days. It's 8 weeks, 57 days, and we have a different prayer emphasis every day. So we're going to ask you to take this. It'll be available online, but it's also physical. So online you can find it. It'll be there where it has the prayer guide, but you can get this physically, put it on your refrigerator, put it in front of you, and pray over it. We're going to be praying together for a different emphasis every day. And then every year through 2020, we believe the Lord told us to rise and build, and we receive pledges and an offering over and above our regular tithes and offerings. That's how we remodeled the building. Well, first of all, that's how we bought the building. We got the down payment to buy the building. That's how we got the money to help remodel inside. But now we're moving from the inside out. So on the other side of this prayer, this what is your suddenly, there's another side to it, and it tells us that our seizing your suddenly offering will enable us to represent who we are as a community much more effective and impactful way. We're going to enhance the building outwardly so guests, when they come and those passing by can see that we reflect on the outside what we are on the inside. We believe this is the next step in our Rise and Build phase to connect people to life as we're called to do in this city. So we're going to work on parking signage and awnings and logo signage and outdoor sound and security system expansion and parking lots and sidewalk upgrade and irrigation around the building and picnic tables and pergolas. And then we're believing to purchase the land next to us, so eventually we own this whole island. Come on, are you here? And then we sow, we give at least 10% of our we give 10% of everything that comes in to missions, but then we give no exception in our Suddenly or Rise and Build, but we're calling it Suddenly this year. We're going to sow into missions. We bought a brick making machine for Africa that is making bricks to build a wall for a church plant that will forever be a mark of what the bridge has done. Last year, we gave several $1,000s. We gave $12,500 from Rise and Build to several projects, but one of them was helping build that church in Gatega. There's lots of things we're going to do. But it's not about just what we're doing, that living from the inside out and all that. It's that we are saying, God, we're going to get a vessel and believe you to fill it. Come on, are you here? What if suddenly land came available? What if suddenly an opportunity for missions came and we had the money to sow into it? Come on, are you here? So last year, just to catch you up real quickly, last year we had $125,000 come in Rise and Build. How many of you think that's great for our church? Come on, can you give God 10 seconds of praise? Come on, somebody thank God over and above. Now listen, we're not talking about our tithes and offerings. That's what keeps us operating. You don't want to shift your tithes and offerings to Suddenly or Rise and Build. That doesn't help anything. But this is believing God. So we have about 240 or 50 giving units. We've got about double that in people that call the bridge their home. But if you put up that graphic last year, this is what that would have looked like. It would have been about 50 people given. If we were going to do that again, if we were going to repeat that this year, how many of you think it'd be great if we just could do that every year? This is what that would break down. Something like 50 people giving $100. That's $1.66 a day. That's 2 Starbucks a week. That's easy. Anybody can do that. That'd be 50 people. Put up the next one. That'd be 50 people giving $250. That's $4.16 a day. That's a Starbucks a day. Some of you say, I don't buy Starbucks every day. You go back and look. You probably buy more than you think. That would have been 50 people. It didn't break down exactly like this. This just gives us an idea. It would have been 50 people giving $500. So that's $8.33 a day. That's Chick-fil-A. That's a 12-count nugget meal at Chick-fil-A. Come on, are you here? Keep going. That would have been 50 people giving $750. That's $12.50 a day. That's a Starbucks and a Chick-fil-A a day. And then that would have been 40 people giving $1,000, $16.66 a day. That's Starbucks plus a Chick-fil-A a day plus selling $250 item. You say, why did you put that up there? How many of you think that's easy? I think that's easy. That's doable. Now, that's not how it broke down because we had a lot of people give over. See, that would be nobody giving over $1,000. Some of you, that didn't hit your brain yet. Now, I gave a lot of $1,000. I gave a whole bunch of them. So did several other people. But I'm just saying, if it worked out that way. So we were going to, in our Seizing Your Suddenly offering, we were going to say, look, let's just believe to do this again. And then we had 3 different people. One of them doesn't even know us. Duane, Pastor Duane's a pastor, friend of ours. He pastors a church of 8,000 people. He said, Pastor Duane, what are you believing for in your over and above this year? And I told him 125,000. That's what we did last year. I think we can do it again. He said, I think God's saying you should double it. And I said, I don't know if I have enough faith for that. Come on, can I be honest with you? I said, I don't know if I have enough faith for that. And then he said, I believe the faith's there. And then I had somebody else come to me and say, I feel like this year our number, what did we do last year? I said 125,000. They said, I believe it's 250,000. Come on, just stay with me another couple minutes, folks. Don't leave. Don't check out on me, please. Please, I'm asking you to stay with me for just a couple minutes. See, you can hear all that great preaching. If you miss this right here, you miss the whole thing. What if the woman had to go to the bathroom and she didn't get the prophet's word? I'd hold it for 5 minutes. I never say stuff like this. I'm just trying to help somebody. I don't care. Unless somebody's dying, just stay with me for a couple minutes. If a baby starts screaming, that's all right. I can scream louder than any child. I promise. So two more people said 125. No, I think it's supposed to be 250. So I went to the vision team. I said, what do you believe? What do you guys think? And we prayed. And as we all prayed, we just said, you know what? We think we need to go for it. So what if suddenly we change those numbers? And all it is going from a minimum of 100 to 200, 250 to 500, 500 to 1,000, 750 to 1,500, 1,000 to 2,000. What if we just said, I'm going to stretch my faith beyond what I believe I can do, and I'm going to believe God for what I cannot do. God, I'm not going to say I ain't got nothing. I'm going to say, God, here's what I have, but if I give you my little bit of oil, will you pour out a little bit more? Will you keep giving me more? If I'll give you my biscuit, if I'll give you my bread, will you bless it? Will you, if I give you my lunch, will you break it down? Will you bless it? And will you feed a multitude with it? Can anybody believe God to seize your suddenly? Listen, be seated for just a minute. Listen, I haven't preached to you in 3 weeks, so I get another 5 minutes. See, we're not talking about believing for the doable. We're believing we can do more than the doable. So we're going to do something else. In a minute, they're going to not only bring the suddenly cards, but they're going to bring, and the prayer cards, but they're going to bring creative ways to create wealth or to get money into your hands. So we got 30 ideas here. You say, what are these ideas? These are helping you know how to go find out what's in your house. Because some of you right now thinking, I ain't got $200. I don't know how I'm going to get $200. I ain't got $200 in my bank account. I ain't never seen $200. Somebody think $2,000. What are you, crazy? I ain't got $2,000. Well, now listen. When we doubled those numbers, go back. Put the doubled numbers up there. Right now. Thank you. Suddenly, put them back, suddenly. You notice there's no Starbucks and all that, because that's a lot of Starbucks in 60 days. Ain't nobody drinking that kind of Starbucks. If you got an addiction, you need help. Even Bob doesn't drink that much diet soda. Come on now. It ain't that much. Pastor Bob's going to cut out diet soda for 60 days. I don't know if he is or not. Maybe that's a word from the Lord. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the prophet spoke. I don't know. We'll see. See, those, we're not going to get there by that, but that's where you start. So like, things like monthly subscriptions that you can cancel or freeze. What if you said, I'm going to cancel my cable for 60 days? For some of you, that's $125 a month. That's $250. You say, I wouldn't have no internet. It won't kill you. Just freeze it. You don't even have to cancel it. You can freeze. There are websites you can go on that are on this list that help you find everything that's being charged to your credit card every month that you don't even remember, and you can either cancel it or freeze it. That right there could get some people halfway there. Well, what if you walk through your house and say, God, what's in my hand? And you gathered items to sell on Facebook, or there's all kinds of websites and Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, or had a garage sale, or maybe had a garage sale together and just said, God, I'm going to cut out these other things, but then I'm going to sell some stuff. The average family has a couple of $1,000s worth of stuff just laying around your house that you don't use. What if you got rid of it? What if you have a special skill or talent that can bring in extra money and you pick up extra shifts? You ask your boss at work, can I work an extra shift or two over the next 2 months? Come on, are you here? There's 30 ideas, and we want your ideas. You may think of stuff that's not on here, and you start posting it to us. Send it to us, and we'll add them to the list. Now then, some of you go, well, I know me. If I don't drink that Starbucks, I ain't going to give the money because I'll spend it on another Starbucks later. Well, then let your pastor help you. We have a thing called text to give. And every time you're going to buy that Starbucks and you say, I ain't buying the Starbucks, pull out your phone, save that text to give number, and text $4.23 right then, and add the keyword suddenly, because that's your suddenly offering, and it'll just keep tallying towards your total. You do what you can do. Every time you're going to buy them cigarettes, just say, I ain't buying no cigarettes for 60 days. You'll not only save a fortune, you'll kick a habit. Suddenly, you'll be free from nicotine. Is there anybody in this house, you say, you got real practical? No, I'm still spiritual. What if some of you, that thing that you just buy and just spend and spend, and you just say, I'm not going to do that, and you stop that, and immediately you text it every time. Every time you use the crock pot, which is innocent, by the way. If you watch This Is Us, crock pot is innocent. But you have that crock pot meal, instead of going out and eating that steak, text that offering in. The ushers are coming right now. And you say, how are we going to do this? Let me show you. We've got some jars in the form of envelopes. So the first one is this color, and it's a purple envelope. The next one is this color. It's a $500 envelope. The next one is red. It's a $1,000 envelope. Then the pink one is $1,500. And the green ones are $2,000. And I'm asking you to come grab an envelope. Now, Chris and I want to give more than $2,000, so we're going to grab a bunch of envelopes. You say, wait a minute, what are you doing? I'm believing God. See, because if we, just the giving units we have in the church today, if we all did something, we'd be there. But I know not everybody's there yet. So I'm going to grab faith for somebody that doesn't have it yet. Come on, are you here? And I'm going to get, Chris and I are going to get several of these. Now, this is not a pledge. You and Jesus see you get these. But you're taking it and you hold on to it for 60 days. That's going to be a miracle for some of you. You don't lose it over the course of 60 days. Or them, however many of them you get. You get 5 of them, you got to keep them. Try to. And it's symbolic. Do you understand? This is symbolic. It's not literal. Come on, say it's symbolic. And we're going to believe that on April 8th, we're going to bring our envelopes back. Now, some of you may have already given it all before you get here. You'll just bring it and wrote, already done, and throw it in the bucket. Some of you will have done half and you bring the other half. Some of you don't want to do the text to give. You may take the money and transfer it to a certain bank account so that you can keep it aside. However you want to do it. But I'm believing that people are going to get a faith. Maybe you get one for you and your wife and your children. Maybe some of you, maybe you say, well, I thought I was going to do 200, but I've never done anything. So do 200. That's a start. But maybe somebody says, I was going to do that, but I'm going to step up here. Or maybe you say, I did 500 last year. I'm just going to really jump up and add a 0. That's a big step. Or maybe somebody said, I've never given this kind of money, but I'm going to go. Come on, are you here? And there's going to be, I just believe a spirit of faith is rising. Now watch this, and I'm done. What are we doing? We're getting our vessels, not a few. We're baking our cake, and we're seizing our suddenly. In our second story, watch this. The woman came to the prophet begging for help, and by faith and obedience, she unlocked the miraculous. She's that person in the church that knows where to get help. And watch, she had a sudden revelation. The prophetic word came. She had sudden restoration. Her sons and money was restored. She had sudden release from debt, despair, fear. She got everything we're believing God for in one time. She knew where to go. Her husband was a servant to the prophet. She knew who to ask. But in our first story, the prophet came to the woman. She was not an Israelite. As a matter of fact, she lived in a land where they worshiped Baal. She lived in an idolatrous country. But the prophet showed up to her house with a word, and her obedience fed him and her. Watch this. She not only got a suddenly, she became a suddenly. Listen, I don't know about you, but I don't want to just get my suddenly. I want to be a suddenly. So I'm believing God to do suddenlies up here, and I'm believing God to do suddenlies here. But when I give that money, I believe that my money is going to create a suddenly for all the hundreds and thousands of people that the bridge will reach from this property from now till Jesus comes. Is there any widows, whether you've been in church or whether you just got drugged here, whether you're online or on campus? Is there anybody that'll stand to your feet and say, God, I will seize my suddenly. God, I believe that you want to do sudden miracles. Either way, this is your alarm clock. Don't sleep through your suddenly.
Breaking out, suddenly's are breaking out, suddenly's are breaking out. I won't let it pass me by. Suddenly's are breaking.